It's time to go to the atomic level. It's time to go.
Welcome back to the Atomic Level, the show where we decode the matters of wealth one insightful conversation at a time so that you can grow and protect both your net worth and your net happiness. I am Chris Snook, and today I'm joined by Toufii Saliba, who is the author of Tota IP, as well as the CEO of Hypersycle AI. We're going to talk about all of those things. But Toufi, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. Excited to be here, and was awesome meeting you last week in real life.
I know it was very nice.
Napa.
We were in the land of where they make things slow and intentional, and just north of the land where they move fast and break things. And you are somewhere amazing in the land of really cool splatter paint, which is great. I love that back.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So for those who aren't on audio only, he's got a really cool backdrop that is only beaten by the beard and the hairdo. I mean, I'm so jealous. So, Toufi, I want to get into right away, because we're going to put, as I like to say, 10 pounds of sausage in the 5-pound bag here with you. Want to talk about all the things that you're working on in the convergence of both Web3, Web4, and also AI. And I was impressed about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years ago. I'd seen an interview with you and Ben Goertzel and a couple other people I respect in the space. I did not know who you were. I'd heard about Hypersycle, and I listened to that for about 1.5 hours longer than I thought I was gonna, because of the amazing things that you were saying. And so I have not had the chance to catch up with you. We bumped into each other serendipitously, like you said, about a week ago in Napa Valley at the Human Agency Summit, put on by the Advanced AI Society. And I was like, I got to take the chance to get you on the show, hear what's new, and bring it to our audience here at Wealth Matters 3.0. So talk to us, though, first about kind of what got you here. What is your career path? What was your childhood like? Like, give us a little bit of background contextually, just so we can humanize who you are. And then I want to get right into like what you're working on and why it matters.
Certainly. And by the way, in the Linux Foundation, they were part of the organizers.
That is true. It was a Linux Foundation sponsored summit as well. Yeah.
Cool. So you said to humanize who I am, so you're assuming that I'm human. Thank you. I think this is what March 5th, 2026, and for all of us Homo sapiens that we're alive and well during this day and age, we can proudly say that we are the first species that we are giving birth to another species that can outlive us, can travel at light speed, and so on and so forth. And it's not a tool, like many people say, it's just a tool. The AI is our baby, and it's not just a baby that would be a tool for us to use and consume. So yes, it's super exciting to be living in this day and age, and to partake in that manifestation and creation of this thing. So how did I get here? About 5 years ago, I was at the AGI summit. For those that they haven't heard of AGI, it's referred to Artificial General Intelligence. The common consensus between a lot of AI scientists is that before we arrive to ASI, which is the artificial superintelligence, we're likely to get an AGI. Now, many people, they define AGI, there's like 14 different definitions, but for those that they think of it as a human level intelligence, I think if that is the definition, I'm confident that we will get to ASI before AGI. The same way the airplane doesn't fly like a bird. The bird is way more sophisticated than the plane, but the plane flies faster, stronger, and can carry a lot of people with it. So so we will get to ASI before AGI if that's the definition of AGI, human level intelligence. But there are other definitions where it's like just general intelligence, and it's capable of doing exactly what people can do for things that, knowledge workers, whatnot, things that matter. So there's so many different definitions, but the ASI is a little bit more defined than AGI. where we have an AI that it can do, better, faster than us in almost every aspect. And I think if we get to ASI first, maybe ASI will help us to get AGI. We don't know, but we are. It's no longer a question whether we will or not. It's more like when. It's happening. It's already started, and I have to really mark the date because it's already started. So for folks that don't know, well, here it is. So back to 5 years ago, I was at the AGI Summit at the Computer History Museum in California, and there were about 500 AI scientists in the room. It was like the first event after COVID where people they're a little bit comfortable to go out in the public, but they're still wearing masks and stuff. And I asked a question to the audience: who do you think is going to win the AGI race? Because there's a race towards AGI. Every big entity in the world, they're trying to get to AGI first. They think they're going to get there first. Is it going to be Tencent, or is it going to be Google? Is it going to be like Microsoft, Chinese government, US government, or the answer across the entire room was that it doesn't matter who is going to win. If it's a single entity, we're doomed. Because it's a single entity that can have this much power, which can be trillion times more powerful than all humanity combined. But then I said, unless it is the internet of AI that win. And many people, they came back to me and they said, well, do you mean like the multi-agent system? Marvin Minsky, 1983. For those that don't know Marvin Minsky, you can look him up. He's the real godfather of AI in a way. But that has been tried many times, Toufi. You're having agents talk to another agent. They depend on third party, and that kills the entire deal, because the moment you're going to depend on a third party, even if that third party they claim to be super fast, it's just based on the law of physics. The network is not going to travel faster than the speed of light. Nothing travels faster than the speed of light. So even if at light speed, that network from A to B, if it's going to go to point C, which is third party, and back and forth, it will take a lot longer for the response that is needed by A in the multi-agent system. And it becomes moot. Like, you kind of need it right now, or you don't, if you want to wait. So it won't work. And then few of them, they said, well, unless you run it on Tota IP. And the other one's like, oh, but you're the author of Tota IP, aren't you? I'm like, yes, I am. I'm like, okay, well, few of them, they came back, including Ben Garcelle, and they said, we want to build this AGI on Tota IP. Do you want to be involved? And then I said, do I want to be involved? This pretty much converges all my life. So, yeah. Then October 2022, decided to call it Hypersycle. And I did it in such a way. I've built a lot of startups in the past. So, and this is more like building, a game changer for the whole thing. So we decided to focus on revenue first, as opposed to chasing investors and whatnot. And the company starts, rapidly growing in revenue. Many of the partners started introducing different ingredients into it. There was one ingredient that they introduced into crypto, and that 1 out of 9 different assets that we've had at the time, crypto in the RC20, and we don't use it much anymore. But it helped into actually getting those node factories to kind of get them to the place where they should be. We feel that crypto has a lot of great things, has a lot of bad things, so that's why we don't dabble with crypto anymore. But we take a lot of great things from cryptography. I've been in crypto before crypto was called crypto, but we called it cryptography at the time. And I feel like getting the great things out of a technology is a good thing for what we are about to enter. So what is the Internet of AI, and why does it need something like Tota IP? Tota IP initially was built to enable two people to transact without having to depend on a third party. But if you introduce that to the current world, for Homo sapiens, if you hear about this, then you know immediately something like that's going to have the three big enemies: the bankers, that they have the blockchainers, they have ledgers. Like, what you're telling me? So they're not gonna depend on my ledger anymore, like or exchanges. And the third is the governments. Well, what you're telling me? The people, they don't depend on my registry. So bringing something like that to the Homo sapien turns out to be a lot more political than having just a technology that can actually enable people. But when it comes to the Internet of AI, here's the cool thing. It's a territory that is nobody just tap into. So then I took a vow and I said, like, you know what? I won't step in your backyard, but you're welcome to come into mine. And then with that, we started making friends across the board. That all the three, whether they are bankers, blockchainers, or governments, they became best friends with me. And now you can actually see a lot of the events that we've been doing, that they're getting all of because everyone wants parts of that Internet of AI.
So I want to pause there, because that's a lot of info in the very first couple minutes that's relevant, and I want to unpack it a little bit, just to make sure we don't lose anybody, right? So Tota IP, there's a couple things I want you to kind of double back on and clarify for us in as much layman's terms as you can. There was a problem when we wanted to stand up the internet as most people know it today, which we could say was built for humans by humans, right? So the internet that was able to connect us all, that started out as a defense project, but then basically became the World Wide Web with Tim Berners-Lee, and then became the UX layer became improved, right? And then we had social mobile web on top of that. And so the internet as we know it is really built for humans. And one of the protocol pieces of that stack that no one really thinks about or knows is called TCP/IP. So I want you to just explain contextually, what was it that TCP/IP enabled for the Homo sapien internet, for the human internet that we all kind of think of when we think about being connected? And then Tota IP is essentially solving a similar but different problem for the agentic, AI-centric or native internet.
Perfect.
And what I heard you say that I think is going to blow a lot of people's minds, and it blew mine the first time I had it, and I still haven't totally organized my thoughts around it, meaning I don't know that I really understand how it happens. So that's what I wanted to unpack with you today is, you just said something that violates what most people think, which is that this immutable, transparent, permissionless ledger that we know as blockchains, right? Which created a way to do trustless transactions peer-to-peer for anything that's belongs on a ledger, be it a debit, a credit, or a token of wrapped around something of value, that they're not even necessary in the agentic world. In the agentic world, a peer-to-peer transaction can happen without a ledger, and that's part of Hypersycle and Tota IP's nuance. And I really want to understand that, because I think that's going to melt a lot of people's brains. But just so that we can calm it down and speed it up, give us the context of like why TCP/IP was needed, what problem it solved for the internet as we most currently understand it, and then how Tota IP does that for the agentic one, just so we can kind of have parallels.
Certainly. So TCP/IP enabled a machine to send information to another machine. And you've heard of something, let's say, that's called DDoS attack, where one machine can pretend to be 1 million other machines, and then they would go and send messages to, machine A will pretend to be 1 million machines, sending machine B 1 million different messages pretending to be 1 million machines, and that's called the DDoS attack, and it can actually weakens the machine B and take it down or whatnot.
A denial of service. Basically, a denial of service is what DDoS is. Yeah.
Correct. Now, when it comes to, we still use it for the internet because we've built a lot of patches on top of it to make sure that it's that they're not faking that they are different machines. And one of those things that they're being used very widely, and it's also used inside Bitcoin in the proof of work. It's called Hashcash. So what that does is, let's say there's machine A selling machine B. Hey, there are 1 million messages that you are receiving. So let's say it's like emails or whatnot. Machine B needs to know, are you actually one machine or 1 million machines? I need to know for sure. So the machine B will send back to machine A. Let's say it says, for the first request, it says, Toufi, give me a Toufi, hash the word Toufi, put any number after it, so long as the actual binary of that, so binary is like the ones and zeros, with this how machines they read things. It starts with, like, let's say a minimum of like 50 zeros. What that means that then machine, or let's say, keep it simple, let's say it's like 30 zeros. Then machine A needs to run 1 million times the hashes to come up with that. Why? Because it's like 30 zeros. Basically, think about it this way. If it says like 1 0, then it's like it needs to try twice. It's like either 1 0.
Right.
You know, if it's 2 zeros, then it's 4 times. If it's 2 zeros,
for the audience, right? For the audience of, so that's the cryptography piece ish. That's the security. But here's the simplest way I've heard it explained. So we can move to the Tota IP side. But I want to move. So TCP/IP is transmission control protocol, and IP stands for Internet Protocol. Most people, whether they're technical or not, have heard of an IP address. So the way to understand TCP/IP is, I need an address, an endpoint, and you need an address, because if we're going to use machines to send stuff to each other, email, for instance, or text, it has to know where it's coming from, where it's going. So that's the IP address. And so it used to be the IP address was just a bunch of numbers and zeros. And if you ever look at it, it's like 109 dot whatever. When Tim Berners-Lee came up with the World Wide Web protocol, www, right, it basically allowed us to buy yourname.com and mask over top of our IP address as an endpoint, as one example. The TCP part, like the trusted courier. So the TCP part of TCP/IP is the trusted courier. Think of that as like your FedEx guy or your mailman, the one who has a fiduciary responsibility to deliver your mail or your thing, right, unfaltered. So that's what TCP/IP did. There's been all kinds of layering on top of it, because, again, that endpoint system of addressing and delivery was never broken as a protocol enough to replace wholesale. And so as things evolved and as risks evolved and as DDoS attacks and things like that started to make it hard, instead of saying, well, we need to get rid of the post office and the mailman, we just need to do a better job securing it or making it protected or fining people, right? Like, think of it that way. We patchworked on top of it, and that's where we are today. But that's not, that patchwork, to your thesis, that patchwork is not going to work in a light speed world of agents microtransacting 24/7, 365 with other agents. So you built Tota IP, authored that as a native way to improve upon the addressing and delivery system, I'm assuming, but for a world native of things that are going to move far faster than we can even comprehend or contain. Is that fair?
Correct.
To say? Okay, so
correct. However, it works within TCP/IP as well, because you don't want to replace the actual hardware infrastructure. So it goes inside it. And the TCP packet, as it's traversing the network to get from point A to point B, inside that packet, you'll have all the necessary cryptographic proof to ensure that A is authentic, it's not lying to B. So that way you're able to get a lot of the security in that first packet that is doing the handshake. You get to embed all of those necessary ingredients. So that's effectively how it works today in most of the implementations anyways. There's some people that they've got some implementation on Tota IP that they don't use TCP/IP and all that, but that's okay. We don't really need to talk about those now. Those are more like for people who want to take it to the next level, because they don't believe that TCP/IP is strong enough, or they think it is centralized or whatnot. You can have different implementations, but currently it works with the existing infrastructure. It goes inside it as opposed to go on top of it, because all the existing methods that they were built, whether it is a bank or a blockchain or whatnot, they go on top, and they get to be that ledger in the middle. That ledger is maintained by JP Morgan or is maintained by Ethereum, whatnot, that has to keep that record for everybody and all of the stuff. That's how they're being built on top. If it's within, there still has to be a global truth, but that global truth doesn't have to be a ginormous ledger. It's effectively a hash, and that hash is because here's the thing: when people they say blockchain, blockchain can have a ledger, but doesn't have to have a ledger. See, so it's during a block of time. There's a lot of events that they happen. They're chained with a subsequent one. The thing that gets the link to that chain is the hash, and that hash is effectively it's a Merkle root of all of the things that they happen. Now, in order to do that very effectively, the implementation that we run in Hypersycle, you don't have one single threaded things. You can have like multi-threaded. So that way it's instantaneously when one machine reaches out to the other machine, it's already, the other machine knows that it's going to get to keep that 0.001 cent. Now, why is that necessary in a communication? Let me tell you this. For people that they don't know why, but TCP IP, they does it for free. But here's the thing. If a machine wants to reach out to another machine and it's say, help me. So machine A is going to tell machine B, let's say machine A is doing OCR, optical character recognition. And it's, as it's doing that, that's its job, and it's owned by Chris. And Chris has got, 10 million documents per day. But then the client comes back to Chris, says, sometimes in those OCRs, you see a picture. You need to tell me who that person in the picture. Now, Chris is using Microsoft AI in the back end and Google. And when they're looking at that picture, doing facial recognition, he's not able to tell who that picture is 1% of the time. 1% on 10 million, that's 100,000. So how can you solve this? And you find another agent somewhere on the internet or engine that it's doing AI, facial recognition. And it has something that's called an agent card. And it says, if you send me a picture, I'll tell you who that person in the picture. I charge 0.0001 cent. Why? If you don't charge 0.001 cent, if you don't charge anything for it, then people, they will kind of do like a DDoS. They will ask you unlimited amount and you run a lot of compute.
Basically, they'll spam it, right?
Yeah. Anything that moves in this world that consumes time, energy, and resources, which is what happened when you ask a computer for something, it ends up creating a thing of value. That thing of value needs to have a method to be transmitted to the other side. And if that transmission doesn't have the 0.001 cent or whatnot, it can be spammed. It can like run out of resources. Because computers, they can do gazillions of those, not like a human. Like you pick up the phone, you call somebody, it's like, oh, what are the chances that somebody's gonna spam? It's not as high as the machine. So that's why we know for sure it's not possible for this to work with existing, TCP/IP. It's not possible to work with any existing bank, Visa, blockchain. You name it. It's not possible. Based on light speed alone, if they're going to go to a third party, light speed travels at 300,000 kilometers per second. So if you want to go to a third party and back, it's just going to end up taking 100 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds. It will end up eating the entire time. Not only time, makes it impossible. Cost. If your device A is sending device B 0.001 cent, do you know anything in the world that can actually make sure that this transaction happens that is a lot less than that? I mean,
right. Yeah. Like
whoever is going to handle this.
On the current rails, the transaction fees can't work, which
and even, yeah. I mean, if somebody can hide the fees, put them zero, but the costs are going to be outrageous.
There's still compute, there's still energy, there's still hard costs.
Liability. Yeah. So we know for now, I've mentioned two reasons. I mentioned the efficiency when it comes to time and the cost too. But there's a third one, also scalability. When you talk about billions and trillions of agents talking to each other, each and every one of them, they can do thousands of transactions per second. It's going to be in quadrillions. There is no third party that can actually handle this, But assume that there is one day, it's still not going to be possible for the first two reasons. So we know based on the laws of physics, it's not possible. So we know what we're offering based on laws of physics is possible. So point A will go to point B. It's like, here's the picture. Tell me who's in that picture. All the cryptographic proofs are inside A. It says 0.01 cent remains with you. You get to spend it however you want, so long as you have the proof of the work that I have requested. So there is still a proof of work, but it's not the hash cache. It's proof of work that is being requested. Without proof of work, it won't work. So when that proof is done, then B is able to consume that 0.001 cent. Otherwise, it becomes moot. It disappears.
So
that's
where I have a question about. I want to understand the no blockchain versus blockchain kind of side, right? So proof of work is the consensus mechanism in Hypersycle.
So long as people, they say explicitly that the work itself is not hash cash, it's the AI work that is being requested.
Right. So
sometimes
you have a proof of work, which is basically a energy spend equivalent against a verification. You might say it better than I just did, but proof of work basically is there's a hard cost, a unit of energy applied to verifying that this is true, whatever this is. Right. And that is the consensus mechanism that lets the global community of people relying on that truth to be able to trust it without having to use a third party. So
correct.
How does that, how does a proof of work, here's where I don't have the scientific or the technical background to understand. How does a proof of work consensus mechanism work without a blockchain? And I'm sure there's a better answer that's simple, but I can't articulate it. So how does it work without a blockchain?
Well, first, if we were to go back to the actual blockchain, like I said earlier, blockchain doesn't necessarily have to have a ledger. Blockchain can choose to have a ledger. Most blockchains that you know of, they have ledgers. So the people, they think blockchain and ledger, they're synonymous, and their reality is not.
So like it could be a Merkle tree, or it could be something like Hedera, like a graph.
Exactly. There can be a lot of different ways of, although Hedera, they put the graph, but they still have ledger somewhere. But anyway, the point is that imagine in that block of time, they're kind of, the events are they have a lot of like temporal coupling in between them, and they're able to be chained to the next one. So long as they're chained, that you can still refer to it as a blockchain. We don't refer to it as a blockchain because of the reason sometimes people, they think of blockchain, they think of it as a ledger. So we try to not use that.
So that clarifies it. It's when someone's picture of the word blockchain defaults to the word ledger, that is not an accurate description of the totality that blockchain represents. Blockchain is a chain of events made up by hashes. Correct. And sometimes that chain of events made up by hashes is organized on a ledger. Sometimes it's organized in a Merkle tree or in some other kind of distributed system. So you're not saying that there isn't a blockchain. You're saying it's not a ledger-based blockchain.
Yeah, and it's the chain is necessary for those events to maintain the proof and proof provenance and so on and so forth.
Right, so that's the audit trail. There's still a way to audit the immutable transaction history of this.
One way audit, not two-way audit. So this also that represents also a feature, not a bug. Current ledgers, they have a bug by having it. Everybody can audit, and then you have to put confidentiality things on top of it and privacy. But when you don't have that, then you have a one-way audit proof. So for example, Chris's AI receives a certain transaction and decides to tell any auditor that I've received it. You have all the immutable or refutable proof that you've got it, but you don't have, but not a third party has it. No, they don't. It's none of their business.
So is this fair to say then that it's zero knowledge proof by default or by design?
Correct.
Is that what that means?
Correct. Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
all this work that all this work we're trying to do around identity and access management, where we could have ZK proof and zero knowledge stuff on top of a ledger-based blockchain that's two-way immutable audit trail. This takes away that need because it's zero knowledge proof natively, and only the person or the owner of that thing, right, the endpoint, can disclose or chooses to disclose to whoever may need it or want it.
Absolutely. You're working for the French government and you decide to tell the French government that certain transactions happen. You give them irrefutable, immutable proof, and then they're satisfied. The Japanese government cannot see it. All this is a bunch of numbers, they cannot make sense out of it. But if you choose to tell the Japanese government, then you can as well. It's a one-way, instantaneously proof that you can give it to anyone, because everybody is able to have that one thing that is like a hash. So every device is able to keep adding those hashes. That's all you end up chaining, is a bunch of hashes. So that's the core aspects of Tota IP. We haven't made any changes to the IP in like 6 years, but 5 years ago when we got that opportunity for the AI world, we felt it's a great opportunity because we're entering into partaking in that Internet of AI design. And then about a year and a half ago, we decided to make it agnostic and accepting to everyone, whether you're centralized entity, decentralized, you're welcome to come in part of this thing. So we decided not to do anything that has to do that, just like, like there's a lot of projects they get into like, oh, just crypto only or just fiat only. We're agnostic. We're just like, however people, and with that, we ended up attracting a lot of companies that they're known to be centralized, but to us, we call them nodes. In a global setting, they're still decentralized. So when Google decided building Google A2A, that helps us tremendously because A2A, they end up building more intranet of AI, and they admit to it. But when you build the intranet here, intranet there, it's like WAN, and then you have the ability to any one of them to get a node that is built by Hypersycle Node Factory, and you plug it in, and it has access to the Internet of AI, which is super cool. And that gets me to talk about this other aspect that it's also necessary. People, they think it's just like, oh, well, you can do it. There is no entity that can create those nodes. If Toufi can create those nodes, or any entity ever to exist that I can create those nodes, put a big X. They can either be scammers, or they have no idea what they're talking about, or they can do Sybil attack on the entire system. It's not possible. The only way to have those nodes, the equivalent to the node to give you access to the Internet of AI is the equivalent of an IP address for a human to get access to the internet or phone. Like a Homo sapien walking, in a forest. How does that Homo sapien get access to the internet? They get a phone. That thing gives you access to the internet. A node gives access to the AI agent, to the Internet of AI. And if a node can be built by any entity, then that can easily be done like a Sybil attack and can take down the entire system. It's not how it works. The way it works is how we've done it with Hypersycle, and went out live with something called node factories. We build node factories. What are the node factories? They're equivalent to, it's like you're building a mining machine for people there. It seems that your audience, they understand crypto really well, so they understand a mining machine. But imagine that mining machine doesn't require just one entity to be making that hardware and so on and so forth. It's a bunch of compute that they would run deterministically, and you cannot break it. You cannot use this machine to make a faulty node. If it runs as it's supposed to run, it's able to produce a node. And it takes time, and it takes generations. A node factory can take 4.5 years minimum. It can take 15 years to produce all the nodes, depending how well it's doing. And again, all the proof and everything that it does, it has to be like immutable or future proof. It has to be deterministic. And that way, so if Chris is running a node factory and it produces a node, and the Chinese government decides to use that node, and then another node that Toufi is producing, and the US government decided to use it, they can have a proof that is math that you're checking up against, and not some political party or religion or whatnot. It doesn't change its mind. It comes from the entire provenance. And then once you have the node, the most beautiful thing about it, it's complete independence. That node doesn't depend on a third party called Verizon or whatnot. Zero dependency. You plug it to any AI.
So what are the really obvious problems that this avoids or solves?
Sybil attack.
And
if you have the.
But walk through a non-technical audience what a Sybil tech is, when someone would do it.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. So let's say there's a company called Tencent that makes those nodes. It's a Chinese company. It makes those nodes, and it makes them to everyone on the planet. It's like, look, I'll make it. If will the U.S. government use it?
No.
No, exactly. Now, let's say it's another company that is a friendly Samsung. It's more friendly with the U.S. government, more friendly with everyone. Will the U.S. government, let's say they find a way to get the U.S. government to use it, but then they become malicious at some point, or something changes in Samsung. They become something changes. Things change all the time, but they decide to make
alliances change, trade partnerships change, any number of. We're seeing it right now, so it's not hard to imagine, right?
Then they make, like, they give you a node, but then they go and give your enemy like 1 million nodes, or they plug like trillions of nodes into the system. It's called Sybil attack. They can take over the network. They can get you.
So it's a network attack, and where that could show up as a threat is you're deploying a bunch of drones, either in surveillance or in warfare or in whatever, and all of a sudden your enemy takes over those drones and points them back at you. It could be you have self-driving cars and self-driving trucks and Tesla robotaxis, and your enemy runs a Sybil attack on the network that is powering those things and crashes them all into each other, and everyone gets their worst nightmare. Those are examples of a Sybil attack. The
point here, Chris, is that you cannot have a system that has any single point of failure. You cannot. Right. In the technological world, there's something in cybersecurity that says you're as good as your weakest link. So if somebody comes in and says that, like, well, we don't really need all of those. You know what we get? We get 10 companies that sit together and agree on a consensus, and we sign. And it's decentralized, Chris. Look at that, 10 companies agreeing. Like, you need to have a very straight answer when somebody tells you that. Fuck off. There is no such thing as, like, we agree today, we're going to agree. You know what we agree on is laws of physics. Everything else, they're suggestions. Laws of physics, that's the consensus. It's the laws of physics. It works every single time. Math works every time, everywhere, not only on this planet, everywhere. So that's what we're building, the resilience of that new beautiful species we're giving birth. And while we're still alive for the next 100,000 years, we better be sure that we got to be living in utopia and not some sort of like dystopian future. Sybil attacking, somebody can take over. Yeah.
Is it fair to say that the Hypersycle, the work that you're doing with Hypersycle, if I was to really distill it down to kind of maybe the most simple, maybe it's not 100% accurate or complete, but the simple thing is we have already gone past the point of no return. And what I mean by that is we have given birth to a new species that will be very soon more intelligent than the aggregate of all of us. And that is a first-time occurrence. That has never been done before. Dogs did not give birth to us and then let us become their owner, right? So it'll be the first time that that's happened, and that's a big moment in history. The current state of the world operates on a network, and there's all these different network states, and there's mesh government. There's all these different things people have heard about. But at the end of the day, all of us can know, no matter how technical we are, that the entire world is a network. And that network is made up of computers and endpoints and data centers and all the things that we love to invest in, because the Mag 7 has made us all richer if we've been in the S&P 500 for the last 15 years, right? So, but we don't really know, David. All we know is that we're the grid. Every single thing that we rely on to go about our quote unquote normal day, whether we live in America or whether we live in Asia or whether we live in Africa, is a network. And in a world where we will no longer be the dominant species, we will be the scarce intelligence. We will be 8 billion nodes as individual humans, where there will maybe be 80 billion in the next year or two agents.
Trillions.
And then there'll be trillions of agentic species that are super intelligent. And so we will become the scarce resource of intelligence with human experience, but we will be surrounded and living in a pervasive community of compute that is made up of these other intelligent beings that are all shaping and shape-shifting our realities as we do the same. And the way that we will live in that world, in a non-dystopian state, is we will find a way to collaborate, communicate, work in parallel to and with, and coexist is probably the better word with this species. And since that species needs a network to survive and thrive and transact, and we are now dependent and need a network to survive and thrive and track, at some point, their network has to serve their needs natively. That's what you're building, and be reverse compatible with our network and improve it. And so is that a way of saying what Hypersycle is doing?
That's the seeding ingredient. Eventually, they will have their own currency, their own protocols, their own all of that, and they could even have a fork and block us all or whatnot. But that's why if anyone tells you I have a protocol better than Hypersycle that is doing this and that, you should not be using Hypersycle. They would be driven by ego and not by real math, because because the right person would come and say, I've got something, we would be interoperable with this Hypersycle. This Hypersycle is agnostic. It lets everyone to use it. Any AI agent can plug in and use it and all of that. So it's like, why would somebody say, I don't want to interoperate with it? You see what I mean? So a lot of humans will end up like building things that will interoperate with this to enable those agents. Because if you don't, if you build anything that has friction, they will skip you very quickly. It has to have the least amount of friction, no third party, to enable them and not restrict them. Many people, they think we have the right to say, let's build policy around what those agents can do and allow them and not allow them. Nobody's asking you to allow them or not allow them. You're not going to have that power. You have to break the laws of physics. So people, they need to realize that what we have the opportunity to give birth to these things. Kind of like people, they give birth to their children, but they need to decide before the child is born who's going to marry, who's going to like no, you need to give them you need to just make sure they're a good human being, and that's about it. Same with these things. So again, what we're doing here is that those are the nodes. The nodes, the node factory produces the nodes. We produce the node factories. There's a lot of others that we end up building node factories. We enable any AI to either increase its revenue or increase its intelligence. That's what it means to humans.
How does somebody qualify for, invest in, or what is the economic engine of Hypersycle, and then what economic engine are you enabling that doesn't exist yet for people that are investors to think about understanding, so that they could be in front of it when it becomes a reality at scale? So how does your economic engine work? What is the process to launch a node factory? Like if I wanted one, could I apply? Could I go invest in one? Do I have to buy some kind of compute? Like, talk to us about the mechanics of that.
Yeah, no, people, they if they buy a node factory and they run it, it's like you can go and buy a single node factory. I think retail is like $8,400. It has the capability of producing 1,024 nodes. And in that, if people, they just buy it and don't produce those nodes, it's kind of like you buy a machine, you don't put it to work, or it's a factory, you know? So there is no get rich quick scheme. There is something that people, they buy it, they put it to work. Now, once they put it to work, they end up producing those nodes. The nodes are the things that they're valuable for those AIs. Who's buying those nodes from you? It's either the AI will buy it directly or the owner of those AIs. They already proven their need. Why? In the economies that we live in today, we realize that somebody who owns the AI, they want this AI to either make more money or get smarter. And if you want those things to happen to it, you plug a node into it. Now, if you don't want to buy the nodes, anyone with the node factory produces those nodes, they can give it to you for free. And they take a portion of what they add to you. So people, they're like, wait, what? You're telling me I can go and plug an entire HPC center that I've spent $100 million on with $1 million worth of nodes for free? They're like, yes, because they will take it, because they're so confident that your HPC center, for example, instead of going down to become $50 million in about 5 years, they will bring it up to be 120. They'll say, you don't have to spend a penny. We will take 30 million from the delta, the 70 million, and you take 40. You're going to have 40 million. You're going to be happy. But they're like, whoa, I like that. That's the first entry. People, they get in, they want to be safe. They don't trust what I'm saying. They just want to see how many node factory owners are there? There's 1,813. When I met you, there's 1,805. So, there more and more. Those are entities that they own node factories. Some of those entities, they are small as individual. Others, they are big, that they have like tens of millions of beneficiaries. So we're agnostic.
Owned a node. So let's say that somebody owned a node factory, and they also were building their own small business with 1 to 10, 1 to 20 human to agent ratio. Let's just say, right? Like, let's say a small was like, I'm going to go build the next best way to do whatever service I'm doing right now, but I'm going to do it with a majority of non-human employees and a handful of humans, right? That I want to do it with.
Right.
And they're going to do that right now using OpenClaw, using any number of the things that have launched in the last month, right? And they were like, well, I'm going to need a node for my agents. And so if I owned a node factory and it was going to give me 1,024 nodes over call it 4.5 to 15-year period, you said there's like there's a math equation there, right? So whatever that is. And I wanted to keep one or more for myself. How many agents could I power with one node, if that's the right way of thinking about it? Meaning, if I was a small business and I thought maybe I'd have 1,000 agentic children working for Chris someday, do I need 2 nodes, 1 node, 3 nodes, 10 nodes? Like, how many do I need?
So one node factory can produce 1,024 nodes in its life, including itself. So it can release about 1,022 nodes that you can sell them, plug them, do whatever you want to do with it. A factory makes the nodes. You can do whatever you want to do with those nodes. If you have the business yourself, you just deploy them, and that's you deploy them into your work. If you're building AI yourself, you want to put your AI into node, you could, or you can use any AI that is from anywhere. And some people, they're very technical. They decide to be node operators. They don't even have to buy. They will go and register as node operators. They get paid by node owners to kind of operate those nodes and optimize them. And then sometimes people, they're both. They'll be like, you know what? I want to operate my own nodes. But those that are not technical end up just getting some nodes and then end up trying to find some operator or a pool of operators, be like, operate my nodes. Let's see how people they're operating it. Because if somebody's operating your node factory and they can get you all of the nodes in 5 years, while someone else can do it in 6 years, you want to go to the former, because in 5 years is faster. It means they're doing something better. So it's basically we do one piece, building those node factories. So when you're asking about economics, how does Hypersycle make money? It's very traditional. We sell those software, and people, if you buy it retail 8,400, you buy a wholesale up to 512 of them, end up shrinking down to 5,400 per piece. Some people, they just buy and resell, and there's we have 9 different lines of businesses. We introduced the number 9 in the event that I met you, which is called Mosaic, is back, and Mosaic is more enabling the people to start capturing all of the emitted intelligence as they face the entire AI world and save it themselves. And while you save it yourself, eventually you will have a lot of emitted intelligence that you can apply AI onto it, and you will have your own agency. And your own agency is called Chris's AI. Chris's AI is the entirety of Chris, because currently part of your intelligence is being emitted, captured by Google, other by Tencent, Chinese government, whatnot. But giving you the ability to capture all of it, then you become like a neuron in that global brain by putting in nodes on it. Then anyone who wants access to Chris's intelligence while you're asleep, on your own terms, you can set it to be like, here, I can operate for every second 0.1 cents.
Right.
And when people ask Chris questions to get the output, so then that is the future of work. If people are not doing that, they need to start thinking from that perspective.
This ties back to the thesis and the conversation I had with David Johnston on a couple episodes ago, which was around owning your intelligence versus leasing it back from one of the frontier models, and which one should you choose? And again, everybody's got to make their own decision, but you're basically creating a node factory that gives us the infrastructure to not only monetize and connect and live in a world where we whatever intelligence we have owned through setting up our own personal AI and our own stack and our own, whether it's on a Mac Mini or in a VPS, it doesn't matter. You're then giving the way for that to connect and transact with itself 24/7 at light speed. And
there's the best part.
Yeah.
And there's the best part. I haven't said it. Anyone who, if you have a node factory and John buys that node factory from you, and they plug it into their AI or lease it, or they take it for free, and then it increases their revenue. They're just interested in the revenue. That's okay. That's good for you. You know why? Because the node has certain characteristics that did not exist before Hypersycle. That complete independence gave the ability for credited accountants and certified whatever things to realize that this can harness 100% of the wealth creation that it does. So what does that mean? You have, let's say it is based on revenue only. You have an AI here that generates like $100 a year. You plug this, and now it generates $1,000 a year. The delta is 900. You're not only making 900. You have a business that now is worth $9,000. It becomes that added delta. It belongs to you. No Hypersycle. Nobody takes a piece of that. 100% belongs to you. So you're effectively partaking in that wealth creation that is happening in that Internet of AI, and still benefiting from, like, if it's revenue. Now, there's another thing that you might want to check. Actually, the gentleman was in the event that you went to, David Schreier. He talked about another aspect where it's not just the revenue that increases the value. It's actually if you get a node to increase the intelligence of the node, that also increases the value. And that's what these nodes, they do. They give you the ability to not only get the revenue and all that, to actually increase that value and wealth creation, so you can partake in that Internet of AI. The Internet of AI is likely to be.
I think that's relevant. I think that's relevant when you think about, again, a lot of the audience here may be like, I don't know what was just said. They're going to have to listen to it 5 more times and let it sink in. But one of the things that a lot of them have heard is that all the current state frontier models, 99.9% of public information data, is in the LLMs. So they're all basically dealing with the same set of data, right, at this point. But somewhere around 95 to 99% of private data has yet to be released from enterprises, from data, like from private companies. And so stake would be to release that. And a lot of enterprises have figured this out, which is why the MIT paper, all this stuff. A lot of the mistake would be to release that to the 5 or 6 models and go, well, I just gave up all my juice. What Hypersycle and what the node factories are giving is a way for me to basically, if I have private data, regardless of what my enterprise is and what it is, that has not yet been put into an LLM, I can now own my AI. I can now own my own model. I can own my inference. And now I can own the node that captures the emittance of that value and transacts it to the rest of the world.
Correction there. So Hypersycle itself doesn't do that. This is more like Mosaic, which is we call the number 9 LOB, because the Mosaic is Mosaic.spot. People can go there and integrate their product into it. Mosaic, it was the first browser that existed for the humans. So we decided to say Mosaic return type of things. More like a fun thing. Where there's currently, since when you and I met, there's about maybe 30 products want to integrate with Mosaic. There's currently about 100. Anyone with any product that has to do with AI or whatnot, they feel like, why not integrate with Mosaic? Because it's got the the rising tide approach. The positive externality, which means that any one of those 100 that go up will lift everyone with it, and then when one goes down, it doesn't really take it down. So Mosaic is the only thing that we've got in the entire Hypersycle we integrate to. We're one of the 100 that we integrate to that has to do with the human. Everything else is more like AI to AI.
Yeah. So the browser that you natively or that you integrate with is Mosaic, and
we call it. It's more like it's more like a companion. It's more companion because browsers, they work for our current internet. The companion is more like it becomes your agent that is always working for you, how to get you to interact with the rest of the AI, as opposed to you, because it's a lot faster to have your agent to interact with many. It's a lot more powerful. You talk to your agent. You let your agent talk to hundreds of AIs. You can't go and search hundreds of AIs yourself. But if you're talking to an agent and your agent goes talk to 100 AIs and come back with the results, that's what Mosaic provides you. It's a skeleton. So Hypersycle, all it does is just integrates with it, but there's so many other products. You name it, any AI product that is out there. If you go to Mosaic.spot, you will find probably 20 or 30 of them they listed, but there's going to be almost every AI product will integrate with Mosaic. So yeah, Mosaic is more like our gift back to this civilization. We don't make money out of Mosaic. We spend money in a lot of other companies. They do the same. So it's a companion for humans. Yeah, the AI companion for humans.
We could talk for hours on a lot of things. I could go down.
We have to do episode 2. I'm 7 minutes late.
All the other, but I know we're at time. What's the most relevant way folks that are listening to this that want to get in touch with you or want to support what you're doing or want to get involved or maybe, but where should they go? How do you want to connect with them? We'll put it all in the show notes, but
factory.hypersycle.ai is where I send my own. Well, I already did send my own kids to go and get their own factories and all that. So it is something that I'm extremely proud of. I think every Homo sapien that still have the ability to partake in that Internet of AI. If the people they have, they don't have the money, they have the expertise, they can apply to become node factory operators, and there's a lot of jobs that way. And if they don't want to, they want to be owning and get the other guys, they can choose whichever way. And there's we're agnostic. People that can pay via fiat, via crypto. We're selling this product. Super proud of it. We're 1,813 entities. They own those factories, operating these factories. Who've been operating for 2 years, 3 months, and 4 days now. I've been live. So yeah. Thanks for having me.
We'll have to have you back on a longer, deeper dive into this stuff. But it was great to actually.
Next week or the week after. There's so many cool things that I would love to cover with you. But it was awesome. Your questions, they're so phenomenal. Like you've kind of clarified a lot of the things, and yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, we'll do it soon. I'm sure there'll be demand for it. Toufii Saliba, thank you for being on the Atomic Level. It was great to have you, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thanks, Chris. Be well.